Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me and my very special guest. He is known to legions of fans for creating the role of Roger in Jonathan Larson's Pulitzer Prize-winning masterpiece, Rent, and from such musicals as Cabaret, Aida, Chicago, Disaster, Memphis, Pretty Woman, Chess, and most recently, Something Rotten. And this coming Sunday night, November 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, he kicks off his concert with Seth Rudetsky as part of the Seth Concert Series. Please say hello to my friend, Adam Pascal.
Hello, Richie. Nice to see you. Thank you for having me.
We are here. Look at this.
We are here. So the audience knows we've been working on technical glitches for several days now. So we finally we're able to catch up with each other. So.
Well, I love this. You have a brand new computer leading into your Sunday concert. I upgraded to 5G yesterday through Verizon Fios because I would cut out every now and then.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope that was working for you.
Oh, it's all working beautiful. Like yesterday I had Luba Mason, which was perfect. And I got through, we were on. And the last 5 minutes, there's a shot of me with my eyes closed because I froze as she's telling a story. So I hope the fans don't think that I was bored by the whole thing. But I'm totally upgraded. You look sensational, my friend. Adam, first off, how are you and where are you?
I'm okay. I'm in Los Angeles in my house. And I am here quarantined with my family. Well, I should say one of my kids, my older son, he's a freshman in college, and he actually went. They actually brought the kids back to campus, so he's at UC San Diego. My younger son is here. He's a junior in high school, and he's doing school remotely. And I'm just trying to stay sane, and trying to live life until we all come back to normal.
Has it been easier having the family there? Has it been better having them there during this whole time?
Well, yeah, sure, of course. I mean, you always want to be around your family, and complete isolation is certainly not healthy for anybody. And I love them, so I want to be around them. You know what I mean? And I need support for myself too. You know what I mean? So it's not just about me hopefully being there for them. It's about them being there for me too. And so I really do feel for people who are having to quarantine in isolation, because that must be very, very difficult. So my heart goes out to everybody who's in that unfortunate circumstance.
What has amazed you the most and what has frustrated you the most during this time period?
Well, what's frustrated me the most is obviously the political situation, the political climate, and everything that's going on with Trump and his insanity. That's the most frustrating thing, quite frankly, that I've ever experienced in my life. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's the most frustrating thing that I've ever experienced, to see how half this country is the way that they are. You know what I mean? It's been, and this isn't about Republican and Democrat. And I know people have said that before, but it really, really isn't. I personally, I'm not a full on lefty. I have some somewhat more conservative views, certainly when it comes to fiscal things and, things like that. But whatever. Point being is that this is about Trump and not Trump. You know what I mean? It's about Hitler and not Hitler. It's not about like a political ideology or a different political ideology. This is about good. This is about good versus evil. You know what I mean? And we are, as a country, in a fight for survival.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting because the whole world is skewed. We're all off balance, and especially the United States right now. But it must be really great. You have your concert this coming Sunday night. I mean, not many people have been able to do a lot of stuff. It's all virtual, and we're all finding a new way through this. I mean, like I said, you just got your new computer and everything else. I mean,
yeah, and it's not working. Everyone should know that I'm on my phone right now. My phone, the computer didn't work.
Yeah, but like I said, you have a few days before your concert, but it's like, leading into these concerts and everything, not only are you the performer, now you're the stage manager, the sound guy, the lighting person. It's like you must have so much more respect for these people before as you're trying to put a concert together.
Well, it's so true. Everybody, we're all having to put on these new hats, you know what I mean? And we're all acquiring these new skills that revolve around the growing technology, allowing us all to stay connected during this pandemic. So thank God for technology. Thank God for Zoom. As much as we all say, oh, I hate it, I'm so sick of it. Imagine if we didn't have it. You know what I mean? And we didn't have the access to each other in this digital way that we do. But yeah, I think obviously in my opinion, this is going to change everything. about the way that we communicate and the way that we interact with each other. I don't think it will never replace, actual human physical contact, but it will open up things and open up the world to possibilities that we didn't have before, that people didn't realize. Oh, I could have this whole team working for me and they don't actually have to come in physically. I didn't realize that. Okay, well, you know what I mean? Like things like that. Like I think it's going to be ultimately turn out to be a good thing and inspire other new technologies that haven't been invented yet.
Yeah. This coming Sunday night, November 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will be live with a rebroadcast on Monday, November 23rd at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, doing your virtual concert with Seth Rudetsky as part of his Seth Concert Series. How excited are you for Sunday?
I'm very excited. And Richie, I just want to thank you for promoting this show. I know I have a tendency to get asked a question and then I don't answer that question and I go off on a million different tangents. So I'm going to answer your question about how excited I am for Sunday. I'm very excited. I'm always excited to work with Seth. He and I are buddies, and we've done dozens and dozens of these shows over the years together. And we always have so much fun together. And he makes me laugh more than almost anybody in the world. So I just, I love the opportunity. I've done a lot of these concerts, these Zoom concerts, and a lot of live virtual things. And they're okay. They're fun. They're, it's good to do something more than nothing. But I am definitely more excited for this particular one than I have been for any of the ones I've done before because of Seth and because of the opportunity to hang out with him.
What's it like doing this with him? Because I know you have sort of, you may have a plan set and then there's everything else that Seth's like, oh, by the way, let's pull this out. I remember this story that you told me about this. Let's sing this.
Well, that's the great thing about doing a show with him is that, we do have a rough outline, of the songs that we want to do. But because we are friends and because it's very sort of like, unstructured, and it allows us the freedom to do that kind of thing, to go, I don't want to do that song. Let's do this song. You know what I mean? Or we have a conversation and it takes us on a tangent that we didn't think we were going to go on. And it reminds us of a song. We go, hey, let's try that. That's so much fun for me. I prefer that. I love working off the cuff. You know what I mean? I actually feel like I work best in that regard when things happen in the moment, things are ad-libbed, and they're unscripted. And for me personally, that's how I always seem to respond most favorably is to a situation like that.
Yeah, because I remember one of your last shows that you did at the Green Room 42. Can't wait to get back to live venues again. It was so off the cuff what you did. It was so wonderful. Your patter and everything with the audience was just so great. It was like sitting in your living room.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, and that's what I was trying to create with that show, with the show that you saw at the Green Room, my acoustic show. But I also, I try and do that in any show that I do, whether I'm working with Seth. I mean, sometimes things are more regimented, they're more structured. You go out, you sing a song, and you leave. You know what I mean? But when it's your own show, you have more leeway to experiment and to be a little bit open and freer with, sort of the dynamic of the interactions between you and the host or you and the audience.
What are some of the songs or composers? Like, what can your fans expect on Sunday night? Because you've done a lot of shows, my friend.
I have. I've been very lucky. They can certainly expect a good smattering of things that they've heard me sing before in shows that I've been in. I mean, you'll certainly hear One Song Glory. Yeah, you'll certainly hear probably Elaborate Lives from Aida. But I also like to do songs from shows that I haven't been in yet that I'd like to do, or songs that I just love that I'm not necessarily appropriate for, but just a song that I love to sing. You'll hear some of that stuff. So there'll be a little Les Mis, there'll be a little Phantom, there'll be, a little Hair, maybe, we'll see. To be honest, Seth and I are still working it out. So, and we'll be working it out up until 5 minutes before we start the show. So,
Is Jean Valjean one of your dream roles in Les Mis?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think you can be a male tenor in musical theater and not want to play that role. You know what I mean? It's one of the best, lead male roles ever created in musical theater. And yeah, I want to play that part. Absolutely. Yeah, I would love to.
You're also offering a special VIP sound check package ticket too, which is really great.
We are?
I think so. I think so. I have a strange feeling your rehearsal's going to end early on Sunday because you have a VIP package, which is so beautifully priced. I mean, everything, what, the one saving grace, one of the positive notes of this whole pandemic is doing these virtual concerts. You have fans all around the world, Adam, in London and everywhere else. Everybody can just purchase a ticket wherever they are in any time zone on Sunday or Monday and watch you all at the same time. That must make you feel wonderful.
Well, again, and it speaks to the advantage of this medium, of this streaming medium, that it does allow for that. It allows, for a much broader, wider audience to come and watch, albeit smaller probably than if we were in a physical space with actually, but that's okay. Like you said, I think it's amazing that I have friends that could that can watch from Japan or England or wherever I might have fans. I love that. I absolutely love that. It's great. Yeah.
Now, which part of your house have you turned into a studio, a stage? Like, where are you going to be shooting this from on Sunday?
Well, right now I'm in my older son's old bedroom. And so this has kind of been turned into a studio, and I'll be putting up like a black backdrop. So like kind of like your backdrop there with that that we're in front of that blue curtain. It'll kind of be something like that. Yeah. Something that doesn't show this craziness behind me.
Oh, but it's really cool though. I'm like, I love, I've been watching you the past 2 days. You've moved from room to room as we're trying to get this together. And I'm like, every star that I've spoken to, they're like, Richie, this is my area right here. But if you look to the left, it's Hoarders. If you look to the right, it's Hoarders. That's
true. I can do this and go, wait, hold on. See all of those shoes. I'm trying to keep the shoes out of frame. Those are all my wife's shoes. There we go. So,
totally.
There we go. I can just frame it up like that. Beautiful.
Because I thought, maybe his son is a rock star. He's got those because I'm looking at the heels on those shoes, and I said maybe he's a rocker that wears those British, those Elton John kind of shoes.
Well, I should say both my sons are rock stars, but neither one of them wears those shoes. So.
Fabulous. So we have to go into, so again, it's your concert is this Sunday night, November 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live with a rebroadcast Monday, November 23rd at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I mean, these concerts are produced by Mark Cortali. They're sponsored by BroadwayWorld and StreamYard. The tickets are available at SethConcerts.com, at Broadway World events. It's only $28.50, and then there's that special VIP sound check ticket, which is available too, which you're doing that. You talked about lyrics earlier and everything else. I remember you telling me a story that you were doing a talk show somewhere in Middle America, and you were going to sing one song, Glory, live after a commercial break. And I think you told me said, Richard, I forgot all the words during the commercial break. Would you tell our audience that story? I love people,
Yeah. Absolutely. It was in Texas. It was like Good Morning Houston. It was like Good Morning whatever. I think it was actually Good Morning Houston.
Yeah.
I think that was the show I was doing. And I was doing a live performance of One Song Glory with just my guitar. And right before they were like, okay, everyone, 30 seconds. And literally as soon as they made that announcement, I was like, I can't remember anything. I can't remember the first word. The first word is obviously One Song Glory. I couldn't even remember how it started. And I was with a friend of mine named Tice. And luckily he's a big musical theater fan. He knows the song very well. And I said, Tice, I'm freaking out. I've gone white. I can't remember anything. Can you stand right next to the camera and just start mouthing the words for me? And thank goodness he was with me, because I honestly don't know what I would have done. I would have probably faked a horrible stomach ache and said, I can't go on. I gotta go. But anyway, so he stood right next to the camera and he started with the, getting me going. And once I got going, I was like, of course it all came rushing back, but thank goodness for Tice and that experience. Yeah.
No, because I've talked to many people who've had that moment when they have to do something live after an interview or something. And they're like, I don't know. It's not the element you're normally in when you're doing this, or you get caught up looking at something else and you're like, I don't know what the words are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what, that happens on stage too. It's happened to me in shows where I'll be in the middle of a monologue. Not that I've delivered a lot of monologues, but I'll be in the middle of a long thing. And then halfway through it, all of a sudden it'll just go blank. And I've been doing fine. And now all of a sudden I know nothing. And I just can't utter another word. And I'm the kind of person that will literally just ask the person next to me, go, do you know what I'm supposed to say? I did that during Memphis once. I was doing a scene in Memphis and there were a bunch of other people on the scene. There were TV scenes, TV cameras and stuff. Anyway, I completely went blank, and I went to like 4 people on stage. I was like, "Do you know what I'm supposed to say? Do you know what my next line is?" And they all went blank because they weren't expecting that either. You know what I mean? They weren't expecting to know what my next line was. They're thinking about their own next line. So nobody could help me. So
you could have just let out a huckadoo. You could have just.
Everyone was just like, "No, I don't know what your next line is." I think I scared them all.
Yeah. No, because you have such an incredible career on stage and, of course, in concerts. I want to mention some highlights and just tell me what comes to mind. You know, you made your Broadway debut. Broadway debuts are really special. And so many people this spring were supposed to make their debuts, and then the pandemic hit. And I hope when Broadway comes back bigger and better than ever, they'll have that opportunity. But yours was extra special because yours was in Rent. I mean, you know, and I'm sure you were I think the last person cast, you told me. But I mean, what do you remember about your opening night as Roger on Broadway at the Nederlander Theater?
I got to be honest with you, not much, because so many things had happened, and the world was of us in that show was such a whirlwind up until that point that like I can't even remember what the difference between our opening night was and the next night or the preview the night before. Like you know what I mean? Like they were all so eventful. You know what I mean? The only thing that made opening night different really was the party afterwards. You know what I mean? Because the audiences were so effusive and so responsive and so excited that, you know, the opening night wasn't that much different than any other night that we had around that time. And again, I would imagine that, you know, someone like Lynn or you know, anyone involved with Hamilton will probably say a very similar thing, which is that it was so crazy every night that it was hard to distinguish one from the other, you know.
You definitely were the Hamilton of its time, because I was fortunate enough to be able to see it down at New York Theater Workshop. I sat on a pillow on the stairs to watch you guys down there. And then we were there for the second night, the night after you opened on Broadway, which was just as star-studded. I mean, the whole entire run practically was, but I will never forget the magic. And I remember talking to all of you at Sardi's. You were all such babes in the woods. None of you had done interviews before. I mean, it was so great. I remember talking to all of you, the camera lights go on, and you were all like, you know, these little babes in the woods. And it's something I'll never forget.
Yeah. I remember all of that. I remember all of the feeling of all of these new experiences, you know what I mean? And meeting you, I've known you for 25 years, but like meeting people for the first time, you know, people, our peers, you know, people in our community, like, you know, meeting everyone for the first time. And, you know, it was very exciting, and not knowing who anyone was, you know, like somebody having to pull me aside and go, that person's really important.
What did Rent mean to you then, and what does it mean to you now? Has it changed at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely changed. It is definitely the gift that keeps on giving. You know, I mean, it's like I continually get people who come up to me and tell me how their lives have been changed by the show. And you know, it's it's such an honor to be associated with such a wonderful piece of art. You know, if nothing else ever happened to me in my career, that would have been, you know, enough. At least I say that now, having had other things happen. But you know, but anyway, I think I can safely say that on a certain level, it would have been enough. You know what I mean? What it means to me now, you know, it's part of who I am. It's this legacy. It's this thing that, like, my kids, you know, when they meet new friends and their parents ask them, you know, what do your parents do? Oh, my dad's an actor. Oh, really? Has he ever been in anything? Yeah, he was the original in Rent. You know what I mean? Like, that'll always be part of their lives. You know what I mean? That's
great. You know, I want to go through some of your other shows. Chicago, Billy Flynn, you got to step into that show. I've spoken to many Billies over the years, and everybody told me that the Billy entrance is so frightening because you're blinded. So tell our audience, like, where are you beforehand in the dark? Like, how does that whole thing happen when you get hit by the light?
Well, the whole, I found that whole experience very frightening because I found that role very difficult to memorize, especially the courtroom scene. Like, there's a lot there. It's deceivingly difficult, that role. And so, you know, I only had 2 weeks to learn it, barely. And so, you know, and as with, you know, most of the Billies who've played that part, this was back in 2013. I was the 52nd Billy as part of that, you know, that run. So, you know, guys come in and they do 3 months and they leave, you know what I mean? And so I didn't get comfortable in that role till like the last 2 weeks, you know what I mean? Because it was like so fast. It was such a whirlwind, and, you know, it takes a while to sort of settle in, and I finally settled in and it was time to go. But I had so much fun. That was in many ways my first big boy role. You know what I mean? Like that was like the first man that I ever played. You know, everything up until that point, from what I can just quickly think about, had been, you know, boys. And now and Billy was my first big boy. Yeah. So it was very exciting for me. I'd love to do it again. You know, yeah. I'd love the opportunity to go back and do it again. It was so much fun.
But aren't you like you're in the dark before you come up the stairs? It's pitch black.
See, I didn't answer your question. I told you.
No, you didn't. I wanted you. I answer your question. Well, I love the story you told me.
Yeah, no, it is. It's terrifying. You're standing there in the dark. You don't know if you're in your right spot, and all of a sudden, it's like lights go. Like there's you don't even get to walk on into your light. You know what I mean? It's just like flick of the switch, boom. You know what I mean? So it really is like being shot out of a cannon.
Because then you're doing your cup and you can't see the stairs, and it's like every Billy has told me that story. They said that is the you know. Yes. It looks good from the audience standpoint, but you're like in the dark. Then you're hit with this spotlight, and you're supposed to walk downstairs.
Yeah, and walking downstairs is never fun. You know, like that's everyone's biggest nightmares. I'm going to fall down this flight of stairs in front of an entire audience. You know, yeah. So luckily it never happened.
Well, listen, I saw you like your second week in that show. You were fabulous in Chicago, my friend.
Thank
Just
you.
so you know, I know it was you wore the big boy pants in that show, but you were sensational. You were very strong, and you had it all together.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Richie.
Let's talk about Aida. I mean, another like mega thing. Elton John, Tim Rice. I mean, what was it like being a part of that? And like singing for Elton John the first time. What was that like?
Well, you know, singing for Elton the first time wasn't until like several weeks into the rehearsal process. So I was much more comfortable. Had Elton been in the room at my audition, that would have been an absolute nightmare. But he wasn't, luckily. And Tim Rice was, which was hard enough. But anyway, so you know, singing for Elton was, I mean, it was an honor. I mean, I know that that's such a sort of a cliche answer to give, but it really was. It's an honor to sing for Elton. You know what I mean? To get to perform his songs for him. You know, very few people in the world get an opportunity like that in their lives, in whatever their respective career is. You know what I mean? And it was one of the most amazing things about just the Aida experience in general was coming off of Rent, which was making musicals sort of guerrilla style. You know what I mean? Like not a lot of money, throwing things together, wear your own clothes. You know what I mean? Get you know, bring your own props. You know what I mean? Like it was just like, you know, sort of like, you know, making musicals by the seat of your pants, you know what I mean? And then to go the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Then you got Disney, multi-million dollars, Elton John, Tim Rice, Aida, you know what I mean? It was an incredible contrast to go from one to the other like that, and you know, both ends of the spectrum to come to the same place, you know what I mean? Which is a completed musical.
And you had a nice long run in that. You stayed in a long time in Aida, didn't you?
I did. I stayed for 3.5 years. Then I left. And then I came back and I closed it. I did like the last 2 months, I believe.
It must have been so great because you had different Aidas during your process, of course, starting out with Heather and then moving on to some of the other ones.
Yeah, I started with Heather and I ended with Deborah Cox. So 2 amazingly talented women. And I am, you know, hugely honored that I got to work with both of them.
Yeah. Stellar performance in that. Okay, you were the final MC in Cabaret. Again, one of my favorites. I saw all the MCs along that run. That was Candor and Eber, my favorites. And of course, that show is just absolutely brilliant. I mean, you were the final MC. He's your favorite role up to now. Isn't he the MC?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for many reasons, but probably for the biggest reason is that it changed the course of my career, in the sense that like I didn't know if, even after Aida and Rent, like I didn't know if I was on the right path. Yeah. You know what I mean? I didn't know if this is what I should be pursuing wholeheartedly. Should I still be going to try and get a record deal? Should I be trying to become a movie star? Should I try to do all the, you know, and I still continue to try and do that stuff as well, you know, but it's certainly, it solidified that I was on the right path. You know, like getting to perform in that show and do that part, it changed my perspective on being an actor. It gave me a newfound respect for being an actor and for the craft of acting. And I feel like it put me, at least in my own mind, but I think also within the perception of the industry, I think it put me in a different category all of a sudden. I think it took me out of just like the Broadway rock guy who was, you know, and then and included me with a bunch of real actors. You know what I mean? And so I felt really honored to be part of that circle of people like Alan Cumming, you know what I mean? And like who played that part. And now, wow, I'm doing it too, you know? I mean, I'm just doing my poor man's imitation of what Alan did, but even still, I'm up here doing it, you know? And so it just, you know, it just changed so much for me. My whole perspective changed after that.
It must have been so interesting for you because you had this beautiful career as you look at your career as a whole. But I'm sure, like you said, after Rent, I mean, I'm sure you had so many people saying, go to Hollywood, do this, get a record. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. I'm sure you were being pulled in 5 different directions and not really having the time to process, like, where is my career going? What do I want to do? I'm sure, you know, you and I talked about this before, but I'm sure everyone's saying, you know, with the cigar, come with me and I'll take you here and we'll do this and we'll do that. I mean, but you maneuver through that so beautifully.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. That's actually probably not as accurate in reality as it seems from an outsider's perspective. It was very difficult for me. And I made a lot of mistakes. I have a lot of regrets. I wish I could go back and change certain things that I did and didn't do. I mean, that's life. That's what we all have that, you know. But yes, that was happening. And I didn't have enough of a sense of self back then to navigate it as well as maybe it seemed like I was, you know what I mean? Had you been at home in my living room with me and my wife, with me weeping night after night, you would probably not have the same perspective. But you know, the entertainment business is incredibly difficult. It's difficult on a practical level, and it's difficult even more so on an emotional level. You know what I mean? And so you navigate as best you can emotionally. You know what I mean? Being in this business, it's as much an emotional ride as anything else, more than any other business that I can think of, except maybe a trauma surgeon, you know. And many times you want to give up. I wanted to give up. You know what I mean? How many more parts am I not going to get? You know what I mean? How long do I do this before I just say, you know what, screw it. I guess it's over. I guess, you know what I mean? I guess I had a good run. I guess it's over. We all confront that all the time. You know what I mean? We all come up against that all the time. Where like we're having a bad streak here. You know what I mean? Like it's been going on for a while and I haven't gotten a part. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the universe telling me something, which is complete bullshit. But I mean, you know, but you know, you start to think that way. You know what I mean? Maybe I should, you know, go back to carpentry school, you know, or, you know, like you start to, your brain starts to spin. And then at the last second, something comes through, you know, you get a job and it refills the tank. It refills your emotional tank, you know?
No, it's like you said, because showbiz is practical and emotional because you're an artist. So it's like you're dealing with this double, you know, and I remember, I forget who told me this, but a star told me, he said, Richard, everybody doesn't realize the in-between. When you look at someone's resume, you look at like Rent, Memphis, all this stuff. No one looks at the in-between times of saying, I don't have a job. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, so it's like.
I work with students a lot and I remind them of that. You know, kids who want to go into this business and they look at me and they see 9 Broadway musicals, you know, and they think like, I want a career like that. Yes, I've been very lucky, but just like you said, think about the times in between, you know, and I also say, look, you know, and I tell students, I'm a musician. I have my own live show that I do, and I go out and I do all that stuff. I try and do some TV. I try and do some film. Like, you got to do everything if you want to work and survive in this business. You can't just do one thing or you won't survive. You have to be a sort of a jack of all trades in terms of the entertainment business, you know, and more so as technology, as life, as the world, as culture progresses, you even more so have to be able to, you know, dip your toe into all of these different places, you know?
Yeah. Beautifully put. It's so great because everybody thinks these kids think you're tapped on the shoulder. Oh, he's Adam Pascal. He's a big star. People don't realize there's a whole backstory to all of this and, the in-betweens.
You
Which I
can,
think is really good advice you give to people.
Yeah, and you can be a big star and still struggle. As a matter of fact, we all do. You know what I mean? We all do. I don't care if you're me or Stokes or Bernadette Peters or anybody. Not that I'm on that level. I was actually sort of raising the bar and saying like me and them. You
are on the same level, but it's all the same thing. They're just different levels. Yeah, it's beautifully put that way. I want to get into Disaster. Disaster was one of my favorite feel-good musicals, of course, written by Seth Rudetsky and Jack Plotnick. What was it like working with that hilarious company? It was like the finest group of stars put together to do this incredible. I was brought up on those 70s disaster movies. I love them all. So then to put Disco together, which is my second favorite. I mean, how much fun did you have working on Disaster?
It was the most fun I've ever had doing any show, as you can imagine. And part of that was that I literally watched the show every night. Like I was never in my dressing room. When I was off stage, I was standing on the side of the stage and I was watching and I was laughing every single night with the audience. I mean, like you said, it's Roger Bart, Kevin Chamberlain, Faith Prince and Kerry Butler and Max Crumb and Jen Simard. And the cast was the funniest group of people that I've ever been around. And we all had so much fun making, and of course, Seth, we all had so much fun making such silliness. You know what I mean? And to get to be so silly every night was so much fun. I was so upset when it closed. I was so upset that I wasn't, not because I was out of a job. I was so upset that I was going to have to stop having this experience every night,
we need to bring that back. It's time for a revival. I think we need to bring that back.
I do too. Look, the timing was bad. The timing was bad. The Nederlander can be a wasteland for shows. You know what I mean? It's very difficult for shows to become successful in the Nederlander. And I realize the irony of what I'm saying. And so I do think that that the show should and will come back at some point.
Did anybody ever go up during that show? Because it all looked like you were at theater school, having the time of your life. Like, did anybody just in the middle of the show, like you or someone saying, "I forgot these lyrics"?
I don't recall that happening. No, I don't think.
It's a group of professionals at Disaster. That's why.
Yeah, not in that show. I don't recall that.
But I still love your story at Memphis when you're like, I have no idea where I am.
Yeah, no idea. Yeah, no. Somebody help me, please. I wish I could tell you how I ended up getting out of that. I don't even remember.
Oh, people forget that part. I've spoken to every star in the world. And they're like, I hate going to the White Room, Richie, but we've all gone there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You got to play Shakespeare in the musical Something Rotten, another brilliant conceived musical. How much fun was it taking on that rock role in that show? And just how much fun was it?
Yes, it was to play a character like that, this iconic character that people, what's great about playing a character like Shakespeare's, we didn't know what he was like. He could have been like that. You know what I mean? He could have literally been like that portrayal from that show. I mean, so, you have such poetic license to play a guy like that any way that you want, and look, to use the British expression, take the piss out of a guy like that, is, you don't get the opportunity to do that very often. You know what I mean? And again, what an amazingly talented cast of people that I got to work with night after night and sing these amazing songs. And again, so much fun. I love musical comedy, and I will continue to make it as much of a part of my career as I move forward as I can, because again, it's one of those situations where, look, Rent, Aida, these big dramatic roles, they're not always so much fun to do. You know what I mean? Like it's sometimes you go out there and you're like, I don't feel like crying tonight. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like taking myself to that place emotionally that I have to get. It's a lot of work and it's upsetting and I don't feel like doing it tonight. You know what I mean? Like, so there's that element of working on a drama. When you do comedy, it's like, you never show up and go, I don't feel like laughing tonight. That generally does not happen.
And then, of course, there's Edward in Pretty Woman. I mean, another big boy role. I mean, very suave. I mean, how much fun was Pretty Woman for you?
It was great. Again, what a great role. What again, another big boy part. And great songs, great Bryan Adams songs. I just loved it. Again, and it's a great acting role. You know what I mean? It's a great part. The character goes on a really nice, solid journey. There's a really nice, solid character arc from where he starts to where he ends up. It's look, it's a testament to the movie and to the screenplay. It's a very well told story, and they tell it very well on stage too. It works incredibly well. So I love that show. And hopefully it'll go out on tour, and maybe if Andy doesn't feel like doing it, I'll do it.
It's interesting. You've replaced people in shows. I know that's a whole different thing because you're sort of falling into a machine that's already going, but of course you want to bring your own thing to it. You don't always have a long time to do it. That's
true. That being said, I have to be honest with you. I prefer taking over roles than creating new roles. I'm at a point in my career now, it's 25 years on, and I want a job. I want a job that I know is going to last a certain amount of time, and I'm going to get paid a certain amount of money. And I know that it'll be there for 6 months. It'll be there for a year. It'll be there, as opposed to, you could give 5 years of your life to help working on a show and developing it. And you never know what could happen. You know what I mean? It could open and close in one night. You could get, and this happens all the time. I don't think it would happen to me, but it certainly could happen. It happens to people. You could get replaced from, before it goes to Broadway, they replace you with a different, a different actor. Any number of things could happen where, it doesn't end up working out, and so I like I like 2 weeks, boom, you're in. Do it.
I like that perspective, the way you look at things, because that like you're in there for 12 weeks, or you're in there for whatever, or you're in for a year. You're going into a hit show.
Right, exactly right, and I really appreciate that stability.
Yeah. I want to ask you about Freddie in chess. You got to do that at, is it the Royal Albert Hall?
Yeah,
with Idina Menzel and Josh Groban. And look at the songs you got to do in that show. What was that whole chess experience like for you?
It was, you're working with people at the top of their game, you know what I mean? And you're in a venue, Royal Albert Hall, this classic, unbelievably classic venue that, that I was so honored to be on that stage, you know what I mean? And again, to sing that incredible music. I regret that it wasn't an actual run of the show. I would love someday to play that part actually in a run. I say that not that I want to sing Pity the Child 8 times a week, but I will. Again, I consider that even though I didn't do an actual run of that show, I consider that as much a part of my resume as any of the shows that I've done, because I've become so closely connected to it and with it, and especially with that song, and because it's on DVD and it's been, recorded for posterity and people can go watch it anytime. I feel like I'm connected to that role as much as anything else.
Would we maybe hear a little chess on Sunday night?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Pity the Child.
Yep, Pity the Child. You'll get it.
You tour the country and you tour the world. What do you enjoy the most about touring and those kind of audiences? In big venues, small venues. What do you enjoy the most, Adam?
That's a good question. I love an audience reaction, whether it's big or small. You know what I mean? Just to get up in front of people. I grew up, before I started doing musical theater, I grew up playing in rock bands, and it was the most important thing in my life, being in a rock band, trying to become a rock star. But we never had any fans, you know what I mean? And so we spent years playing to empty clubs and empty bars. And there's nothing more disheartening than doing that over and over and over again. And so by the time I got to Rent, I had already had 10 years under my belt of that being my experience, of nobody there. So if I walk out onto a stage and there's 5 people in an audience, I'm thrilled. I don't care where it is. I don't care what I'm doing. If there's anybody there, even to this day, even though it's, again, 25 years later, I'm like a Pavlovian dog. Like, I've been so conditioned to expect to walk out and see nobody that it's always, to this day, a huge treat to walk out and see anybody.
Yeah. So finally, what are you looking forward to the most with Sunday night's concert?
Just getting the opportunity to spend time with Seth and hang out with him and have fun and laugh. You know, that's the best part about doing shows with him, is just the friendship, the camaraderie. You know, I've sung all these songs a million times. You know what I mean? I like to say, well, I'm very much looking forward to singing "Pity the Child," you know. But no, it's about hanging out with Seth, and hopefully people will have as much fun as he and I have.
Oh, they will, but it must be great for you. I mean, people haven't been able to be artistic during this time period a lot, except finding your ways in through concerts. It must be really great just to sing again for an audience, even if it's virtually.
It is, yes. And knowing that there's people out there watching,
yeah,
it feels like an audience. You know, it feels like, you know, the pressure there. The pressure is there of knowing that it's not just me and Seth. There's people watching it. So.
You bring so much joy with your gifts. Just so you know, I've been telling people this, you know, we're all going through this rough time, but what you give people and what you're going to give people on Sunday and Monday and then on demand or whatever is, you know, everyone's sitting at home trying to get through all this stuff. And, you know, what you do with your talents, it heals so many people. And that's what it's going to do. So I hope, you know, you can see that perspective, which I'm sure you do, that what you do on Sunday, once you set up your computer and your background and your sound equipment and everything else.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, what is your sound check?
Our sound check is, I guess it's right before the show, I think.
Okay. It's live, just so you know, with your fans. Just so you know.
Absolutely. No, I'm ready. I'm good.
Listen, once again, everybody, this coming Sunday night, November 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Adam Pascal will be live in concert with Seth Rudetsky, a rebroadcast on Monday, November 23rd at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Seth Concert Series is produced by Mark Cortali. It's sponsored by BroadwayWorld and StreamYard. Tickets are available at BroadwayWorld events and at the Seth Concert Series. Just Google Adam Pascal. It'll take you to either BroadwayWorld or to Seth. You'll get
Who knows where it'll take you?
What's that?
I said, who knows where it'll take you?
It'll take you to somewhere fun. Adam, this has been great catching up with you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, Richie. It's always great to talk to you. I really appreciate it.
Listen, everybody, stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask. We'll see you live soon, and we'll see you all Sunday night. Take care.